Hello, I'm Chris with Dream Studios. Welcome to episode 10 of my ongoing Advanced TINKERCAD 3D modeling series. In this episode, I'd like to introduce you to two brand new texture packs I've developed over the last few months. One is a scratch pack, a way to introduce surface scratches onto your models. The other is a texture pack that will allow you to quickly add surface detail using a library of texture stamps. Click the links in the video description to learn how to download these packs. These two maps can be used in any 3D program that allows you to import STL models. So let's go ahead and open a new project and get started on this new tutorial. Okay, here we are. We have a new project opened up. You would be bringing in your project. It would be a prop or a model of some sort. For this sample, I'm just going to use a plane. So we're going to start really small by introducing just a few scratches onto a first little sample here. Then we are going to do another one that's going to be a little bit heavier. We'll do more scrapes and scratches, and we'll do some pits. Then I think when we get a little bit more comfortable with these tool packs, we'll do like a box like this guy, and we'll do one that's pretty chewed up with missing corners and just kind of really beat up. And then our last one will be completely old, 100,000-year-old piece of sculpted granite or something, and dog-eared and chewed up and rusty. It's going to be jacked up. I did a sample yesterday, just kind of fooling around with these packs, and this is the little piece I made. Pretty chewed up. Ours will be even worse in this tutorial. So let's go ahead and get started on this one here. Let me introduce you to the texture packs. We're going to start with scratches. Choose my file, come over to my root directory, and here's our texture packs. We've got a scratch pack and we have a texture pack. The scratch pack is 10 different scratches. And let me bring this down here so we can take a quick look at it. So it's just basically they're vector lines. These are 1.5 weight vector paths, closed paths that are extruded. Fairly simple, but this is going to save you a lot of trouble when you want to put in scratches. I'm going to show you how to use that in great detail. And then we also have, let's get this out of our way. Let's go back over to texture packs. Let's look at this main texture pack. And here's what's inside this. So we have there's 10 texture stamps. So these guys here are different coarse levels. We go from real mild to really super peaky and heavy. This one right here, this is a really cool map for getting some super good textures. It's one of my favorite ones to use. And then we have all these rock packs. This one is 5 rocks all together. Then we have different levels of coarseness. Some of these are sandy, some aren't. Some are super round, some aren't. Different shapes. I'm going to show you how to flatten these out, how to exaggerate their levels. This is a cool one for making corner scratches. I will show you all these, but let's go ahead and start real light with light scratches. I'm going to go ahead and just pick one of these at random. Let me see if I can get my thumbnails here. So let's start with the real light scratches. We'll start here with scratch. Let's bring in scratches 6 through 9. Here's our scratches imported. We have 6, 7, 8, 9, and I think the single scratch was number 4. Now, of course, we can scale these up or down to fit your project. I'm going to scale these down just a little bit. And we're going to work on that white plane. All right, let me show you how this is going to work. Let me go ahead and start with just this guy here. I'm going to bring him in. And let's say this is some kind of a prop that you're working on. You want to get this surface chewed up a little bit. I'm going to turn that object into a hole so I can see what it's doing, and I can come in here, make sure my snap grid is set to off, and I'm just going to come in, just kind of set it right there, and let's do another one, maybe just one more. I'm going to grab this guy, bring him in. I'll do a rotation, and let's do a copy of him, and just so we can bring up the variety of shapes here, I'm going to reverse him this way. And get this rotated. We'll just have him dragging off the edge. So again, I'm going to turn that into a hole. I'm going to monitor where this is. I can zoom in real close here and see how deep that is. I might go just a tiny bit deeper, make that scratch a tiny bit deeper. This one over here, again, I'm going to zoom in. Just going to barely put him in the surface. And now we are ready to grab all those objects, grab our plane, group. And that happened just really fast. So, okay, there's a couple scratches. There's our little start. Let's make this a little more interesting. And let's grab one of these texture maps. I've got one pulled up here. I think, well, actually, these are labeled, aren't they? So I labeled these. This is stamp number 1. It's a very light stamp. And I'm going to make it even lighter, actually, because we're starting really light duty. So I'm going to take a look at the surface of this. Here's our surface of stamp 1. I'm going to reduce these peaks just a little bit. We're just going for a real, kind of a sandy, maybe, appearance. So stamp number 1, going to flip him 180 degrees. Bring him over. I'm going to turn him into a hole. And looks like this covers that plane. And before I do that, though, I'm going to ungroup these scratches, because I want to introduce these scratches after the texture is in place. Okay, so we have 3. I'm just going to move these off. Now this, I'm going to bring down. It's a hole, so it's going to subtract from this plane. I'm going to come in here, and maybe I won't bury it the entire way. Maybe I'll just start there. There's a lot of that flat plane left over. Let's go ahead and start here. We're doing just a real light texture. We're going to group this. While that's doing its thing, I'm going to grab my scratches, bring them back inside this project. Drop them in. Group again. Let's get this way over here. Okay, this might not look terrific in TinkerCAD. Let's go ahead and save this file and open it up in my 3D viewer and really check out what this looks like. So we can see we got some of this texture. We have a couple cracks. Depending on how large your model is, these may not print barely noticeable at all on your model. That's what I noticed with us, especially with 3D resin printing, is it looks super dramatic when you're sculpting it, but when you print it, it's pretty smooth. So, but that's a good start for us. We can see the cross section here. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's make another one of these panels, and let's go a little heavier. We are going to import. Let's import texture stamp 5. This one's pretty heavy. It's not the most heavy duty texture stamp I have, but it's pretty impressive. All right, same order of operations. You can take a look at the peaks on this. Pretty peaky. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it just there. Flip it 180. Cover our panel, and we're going to make an adjustment here. This time we're going to go most of the way in. Let's go most of the way in here. This one's a little more dramatic. Okay, we group it, and already we can see it's but it's a lot more dramatic. And let's grab this scratch, and we'll just adjust it to our needs. And let's get another. Let's get a few more. We said we were going to go more heavy duty, right? So let's go ahead and go nuts here. Let's get a big guy here. And we'll do one more here. We'll keep them in the same direction a little bit. Okay, so I know these are all the same level right now, so I'm going to grab all three of these. I'm not going to group them yet. I'm just going to turn them into holes. And I'm going to watch the edge here. See how deep we want to make these scratches. Actually, there'd be more like cracks here. And I'm looking for this. This is what I'm watching for here. That's its immersion level. So I want to make sure this is completely immersed into that surface. Looking good to me. We're going to group this. And since we were going a little heavier, let's go ahead and put a couple pits into this. We're going to import the STL in the texture pack. One of these is a stone group. Here we go, stone group. So I think this one is 5 stones grouped. Here's our grouped stones. And let's take a look at these guys. Okay, so we have texture on the tops and bottoms. And you really could make a terrain out of this at this point if you wanted to. If you wanted to make a base for a model, why not? You can set these guys. This is a group of 3, 4, 5, 6, actually, 6 stones. There's individual stones. We'll also take a look at those. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, just make a base here. We're not making a base in this tutorial. We are texturizing. So these are going to become little pits. Sunk in pits. So I'm going to grab these and I'm going to start sinking them in there. I'll do a duplicate layer. Flip it 180. It doesn't have to be 180. You can flip it 140 and use that new stone. Push in. Let's do this. So I can see here when it turns dark, that's where it's embedding. I like it. I'm going to duplicate that again, and then we'll do another group, maybe even smaller pits over here. Sink them in. And that doesn't look extremely random to me, so I'm going to go ahead and install one of the other stones, maybe 2 more, and we'll get some randomness happening. And they're really huge, so we're going to shrink these guys. Really tiny. Just making little pits. These are separate models now, so I told you there's a whole bunch of separate stones. So I'm just going to get these randomly. I'm going to push them in here and there. I'll put one here. I will put one right here. I'll duplicate again. Stick one of these way over here. Maybe duplicate this guy and get him stuck in maybe over here in this corner. Just to make him different than the other one, I'm going to rotate it and rotate it again. Okay, let's go ahead and group all these and see what we have. Here is that heavier texture map. I brought this into Fusion 360, so we might take a better look at it. But I've got some great topographical texture here. I can see these little pits that we put into it. You can see the cracks. So I guarantee that you're going to start seeing this texture if you apply it to your model when it 3D prints, either in FDM or resin printing. You're going to start seeing that texture. You will start to recognize it. Okay, so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Let's go ahead and get a little bit. Before I move on to the super aggressive sample, I'm going to show you a practical application of the tools I've showed you so far. So I'm going to take this dial. This is from my Dial of Destiny 3D model. This one I finished last year. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to chew this dial up. I'm going to give it some texture. It's supposed to be a metal. So we are really going to make this old much, 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 much worse than it really appears in the movie. I'm using a texture stamp 2, number 2 in my pack. I've got a couple of these rocks and a couple of the cracks. Actually, I've got some of these rocks over here we're going to experiment with. And I'm just going to go ahead and do a time lapse on this. Same techniques I showed you before. Laying everything on here, subtracting. Let's see what we can do. Here we go. Alright then, here is our before piece, and here is our after piece. A lot of interesting texture going on. I textured the bottom as well. You can see that. I didn't really spend a lot of time on these edges, but you get the idea that if I took those stones, like I did here, I subtracted some here. You could do this across these edges too, and really, really get in there. I've got that etch detail that's still in here. I've got cracks happening. All right, so there is a sample of what you can do with one of your models. Now let's go ahead and get into the extreme sample. For this last example, for the extreme example, I'm going to come into my texture pack. So I'm going to go over and grab this one, Mountain 1, Mountain 2, and a few of the rocks. I'm going to grab a few of these heavy scratches. I think this is, which ones were these? I think this is scratch 7, 8, and 9. It's a little more aggressive with the scratching. Cracks. And there they are. So this is mountains 1, 2, and 3. Let's take a better look at these. They are more spread out. I'm really liking these. This really looks like granite when you subtract this from a solid. So I've got some really tall peaks on this. This guy here. This one, not as tall. We kind of have like a nice slope there going on. Just always remember, I can always reduce those slopes by squeezing it down. See how much more gentle that is when I squeeze it. I'll probably do that for that one. This one over here, this is the mountain number 3. Got some really nice big peaks on this. I think what we'll do first is I'm going to copy this And let's go ahead and detail out this cube. You can either resize your texture stamp or resize your cube to fit your needs. And let me just go ahead and do this one. And then I think I might speed lapse this a little bit. I'm going to turn this to be 90. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use my cruise tool. I've got a tutorial. My next tutorial coming up is the cruise tool. So I'm just going to place this against this guy. I'm going to turn him 180. Turn it into a hole. I'm going to grab the arrow. And we're going to push him in. Recenter that. And I need to go upwards, so I'm just going to hit my my shift button, up arrow, side arrow. Make sure that we're completely covered over here. We have a little bit left over here, which is fine. We'll leave it. And let me go ahead and subtract this so you can see what this does. This is an unreduced mountain. This one was mountain number 1. And as that's cooking that, I'm going to turn it into a white color so we can see this in better detail. Okay, there it is. That might take, you know, a good 15, 20, 30 seconds, depending on how much you've got going on your computer, because that's pretty poly heavy, but you can see this great texture. I love this one. Again, this is mountain number 1. So you can see that peak we've got going on. Well, the peak turned into a valley right there. So if I didn't want that valley to be as heavy, I can go ahead and grab that same. Actually, this is mountain number 2. Not as peaky. Let's make this one even less peaky. I'm just grabbing its Z and bringing it down. And let's go ahead and join this up to this other side. See what he looks like. And I'm just going to keep repeating this. I'm going to time-lapse this. Otherwise, this video is going to be extremely long. So I'm going to time-lapse this guy. And I'm just going to go ahead and texture all of the sides of this cube. I am not gonna lie, that took probably about 4 minutes to render. I intentionally left some of these spaces smooth. I didn't embed all the way. You can see a smooth space here, here. We're gonna use some of the stones to knock in some of these edges. What did we do? Oh boy. Let's take a look at this in Fusion 360. Oh my god. Yes, look at this texture. I love it. You can see some areas. You saw in the speed sculpt I was missing some of these spots just on purpose. Wanted to see the contrast. So you can see there. But if you spend a little bit more time on this, you can really get exactly what you want, but holy crap, look at that. Look at this texture. That is something else. I'm really liking these scratches. Look at this face right here. Beautiful. All right, man. I think that's it for my my little samples here. These two texture packs, the scratch pack and the texture pack, are available through the links in the video description. Okay, that's it for the scratch pack and texture pack tutorial. I hope you found that useful. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.